Niles had 7 ways to die. In the last episode of The Family Business, we saw Paris tell Rio that she got rid of Niles by blowing up his spot. And there is one huge problem with all of this and how she did it. Who is Cousin Curtis going to find at the end of his bounty mission? Is Niles still alive? And who was it in that body bag getting their face covered up? I want to talk about all of that and more coming up right here on Ruthless TV. Now, Paris could have taken Niles out differently, a lot differently, in my humble opinion. She could have suffocated him with a pillow or even poisoned his glass of wine, but instead, she blew up his spot, literally. Now, I'll give Paris her credit. Although she shows several signs of growth as a young Duncan woman in season 5, it's evident in this episode number 3 that there are still some areas in her life that need improvement. First and foremost, Paris needs to tell somebody that there was a hit out on her father's life. That's number 1. Top of the list. Vegas and Orlando, they should have been like the first people that she called instead of taking matters into her own hands. Now, another way that she could have got rid of Niles is by pushing him off of one of the tall buildings that they be standing on, taking other people out. She could have easily slipped and fell on him, lean in towards him just a little too hard, and down he would have went. But I had one problem, a huge problem with the way that she decided to take him out. And that's the fact that Niles had time enough to escape. He had time to get out. Niles was and or still is like the best of the best when it comes to assassinating people. So do we really believe that a man like Niles just stood there and watched the room burn to a crisp? Now, she said that she watched them cover his face with the sheet, the body bag, and all the things, right? But I'm going to tell you how I think this all happened. What we actually saw on camera is where Paris was on the phone talking to him all the way up until the explosion happened, right? But when she hung up that phone, there had to be a time lapse because that's just the laws of time passing, right? So in that short time span, we assume it was short because she told him that she'd be there in a minute. And of course, that was to keep him in that room. But there could have been a knock at the door at the last minute, which means he could have been saved by being pulled out by the person who was at the door, just in the nick of time. He could have slid under the bed. Y'all know how it is when you hear loud noise, and things that are just unexplained in general. We either hide in the closet or hide under the bed, when we were kids, that is. Now, Niles was the best of the best at what he did. So he may have heard the countdown from the bomb and just jumped out of the window before the room exploded. And there could have been a hidden passageway for him to escape in the event one of his family members, his victim's family members, wanted to retaliate. So he knew a way to escape in the event of something like this were to ever happen. Now, another way that Paris could have handled this, it could have been a lot smarter. She could have forced him to put the gun on himself, all while she's helping him in the lives of other people. She could have just typed up an suicide note and just made him pull his own trigger. Self-inflicted wound. Easy cover up, but she didn't. She chose to blow the room up, which left too much wiggle room for a getaway. I mean, the way that Paris shoots, she could have shot him herself just to be sure that he was gone to glory before just assuming that he was gone because she saw them put the sheet over his head. And for all she knows, it could have been a hotel worker who got caught up in the crossfire while trying to rescue Niles. There was just so much room for error with this blue rose mystery that things just aren't adding up. If Niles is the only person in the world to ever send you blue roses, then it's not that hard to figure out, ma'am. He didn't die in that explosion. Now, on the flip side to it all, he could be privy to knowing that Paris is the one who caused the explosion, and he's now sending her roses as a prerequisite warning before he starts to seek revenge on her and her family. Or he could be in a hospital in Paris struggling to stay alive, and it's his way of letting her know that he's okay. There were just so many other ways that she could have chosen to ensure that Niles could have no other way to escape. Like, she could have partnered with one of his enemies to have them take him out, because we know that someone has to want to retaliate to avenge their loved one's death. Or she could have taken him to an unsafe area to have one of the locals do it. then she could have just paid him off. Now, don't think that Paris don't have unsafe areas, because they do. I know we see in the media the food, the wine, they're unmatched. And the Eiffel Tower is an iconically historic place to visit, but don't let the media fool you, okay? And she loved Niles, right? And apparently he felt the same about her, because he was about to ask her to marry him. But all this time that she was over there with him, she could have just as easily poisoned his food while making him that morning after meal. Y'all know what the morning after meal is, right? So yeah, that's another way that she could have taken him out. So yeah, but these are just 7 ways that she could have entertained the thought of helping him to leave Earth before making the decision to blow up his spot. But these are just my thoughts on the Blue Rose mystery. Let me know what y'all think down in the comments below. Do you think Niles is still alive, or is someone just effing with her like she thinks? Let me know your thoughts below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. You know I'd appreciate it. And if you're a fan of Carl Weber's The Family Business like I am, go ahead and sub to the channel for more videos just like this one. Thanks so much for joining me today on Ruthless TV, where it's more than just a recap. And I'm going to see you in the next one.